Danielle Padu.
Here.
Dwayne Cochran.
Here.
Stephen Douglas here. Tyrone Drummer.
Here.
Donald Houston.
Here.
Elliot Eisenberg.
Here.
Stanley Johnson.
Here.
Shakina Williams.
Here.
Can we have the minutes read for the previous meeting?
Tuesday. Present were Daniel Padu, Dwayne Cochran, Stephen Douglas, Donald Houston, Elliot Eisenberg, Stanley Johnson, and Shakina Williams. Also present was Todd Hunt, the law director. The meeting was opened at 6:05 p.m. The minutes were read, and Donald Houston moved that the minutes be accepted as read. Stanley Johnson second. It was voted unanimously that the minutes be accepted. Vice Chair Johnson opened the meeting asking, had members read through the charter? Most members stated that they had read through a portion of the charter and wanted to hear from the mayor, all of council, and department heads to better understand what suggestions or recommendations they had before attempting to assemble any major changes to the charter. Danielle Padu stated that in her reading, she was noting that the charter did not appear to be in line with the Ohio Revised Code with regard to the mayor being able to appoint department heads. The discussion moved to the issues presented by the mayor at a prior meeting, specifically the start date for the incoming mayor. The mayor presented that the start date should be January 1 as opposed to the current start date of December 1. A discussion was open regarding the issue of the audit committee that is appointed for fiscal review. The previous committee consisted of then council at large Miesha, Wilson Headen, Eloise Henry, Russell Johnson, and Donald Toole. Currently, the committee consists of Eloise Henry, Donald Toole, and council at large Juanita Lewis. A fourth person still needs to be appointed, and it was revealed that it is council president that makes the appointment. Further discussion was suspended to allow the fire chief to present. The chief went through the charter, targeting those areas that are directly affected in the charter. With the exception of Article 6, Section 4, the chief saw no need for any other changes. Article 6, Section 4 deals with the qualifiers for the position of fire chief. The chief recommended that the charter be changed to specifically state the requirement for an applicant's previous position had been that of a full-time paid position of a fire lieutenant or higher. The law director further stated that the change should be made to read that prior position to have been in a political subdivision of a state. The discussion resumed on the subject of the audit committee. The question was raised concerning why the appointment was made by council president, and the law director stated that it was recommended by the state's auditor that the audit committee appointments should not come from anyone serving in the mayor's office or its administration, and neither should any of these persons be appointed to the committee. The committee acknowledged the presence of Marsha Sharkey Morgan, Ward 1 Council, and Deborah Palmer, resident. Elliot Eisenberg moved that the meeting be adjourned. It was seconded by Dwayne Houston. The meeting was adjourned at 7:05 p.m. Respectfully submitted, Stephanie Douglas, interim recording.
Thank you, Steve. Are there a motion that we, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of the previous meetings. We have one young lady sitting at the table with us, Arnetta is going to be joining us as a ninth member. Right now, she hasn't been administered the oath by the mayor. Once she's administered the oath, then she'll become a permanent member of this charter review board. Our meetings are going to be conducted in what we call Robert's Rule, and Robert's Rule is a rule that allows everyone to be heard, and it also helps us make decisions without a lot of confusion. So if everyone in the committee approve of it, say yay.
Yay.
Any nays? So it's been approved that we'll be using the Robert rules from this time forward. Also, we have a videographer that's been assigned to videographer each one of our meetings. This is for transparency and to be open to the public. Everyone everyone in favor, say yea. Yes.
Yes.
Any one that's do not approve? So it's approved that we do have a videographer that's going to be video taping these meetings on every Tuesday when we meet. With that, we would like to ask the council president to join us at the table. Todd?
Yes, I'm sure some of you know Mr. David Lynch. Dave's an attorney. And Dave has been asked by the mayor to join us with the charter review to assist me with providing legal advice to you. So Dave will be here at the remainder of your meetings. I may be here off and on depending on what the mayor wishes. I've known Dave a long time, and I've known Dave when he had black hair. Of course, Dave knew me when I had more hair, but
I object to both comments.
it's been almost 30 years. I went back and I've known Dave for about 30 years. Of course, Dave's a former mayor of the city of Headen. So Dave Lynch, and he'll be also advising you.
Hi, Dave. Thank you. It's a pleasure to see you. Just a couple of brief remarks. Most of my experiences in municipal government, municipal areas. I also served as president of the Ohio Municipal League, which represents all the cities in the state of Ohio. And so any questions that you have, I'd certainly be delighted to entertain them. And that relates to everybody in the municipality. I did want to point out the 3 brief points of order already. There was a motion that was moved and seconded to approve the minutes. You did not call for a vote on that. So I would like you to go back and just say, you know, it's been moved and seconded for the minutes, and if you can ask for a vote on it, I'll say aye and so forth. But the minutes were actually approved, was just moved and seconded, if you didn't take a vote on that. So, and secondly, the other 2 motions that you approved, you took a vote on them, but you didn't ask for a motion on the second on either one of those. And you might think that, gee, now we've got a guy who's a real stickler on the rules of order.
No, that's good.
You'll be very happy about that, because if you put together a charter change that everybody in this room agrees is a good idea, somewhere, some smart mouth lawyer somewhere who wants to challenge it is saying, don't you remember you had that meeting? Blah, blah, blah. So those 3 things probably should be corrected before you move any further, Mr. Chairman. But thank you. I promise not to be this bad as we go forward.
Okay, so the minutes, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes. And call for a vote. And all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, it's been motion carried. The videographer,
Robert.
okay, it's been,
You need a motion and a second on those. You took a vote without actually having a motion on the table, Mr. Chairman.
I move that we accept the Robert Rules of Procedure for our meetings.
it's been moved and seconded that we accept Robert's rule. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It's been motion carried. The videographer,
I'll make his motion that he be approved for the meetings.
do we have a second? Second motion. It's been moved and seconded that the motion be carried out for the videographer. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It's been motion carried.
Thank you so much.
Would each one of us like to introduce ourselves today before we get carried on with the president of the council? Danielle, would you like to introduce yourself today?
Hi, David. Dwayne Crawford. I live here in the city of Richmond Heights, not far away, down on Celestial, behind the sand. And been a resident here for 27 years.
Hi, I'm Elliot Eisenberg, and I live in Trubisky Woods.
But you still.
To everyone, my name is Arnetta Parker. I live on Wordsworth Court here in Richmond Heights. I've been a resident for 15 years, married to my husband John, 45 years. We have 3 adult children, 3 grandchildren. I'm a retired IT professional, and previously I've been involved with community activity here in Richmond Heights, the tree commission, local polling official, presiding judge at my precinct polling location. And I look forward to being involved in this opportunity in this charter committee. Thank you.
Stephanie Douglas, 11-year resident, Brookdale Road.
Hi, Sherdina Williams. I've been a resident for 20 years and I live on Royal Bowl.
Donald Houston, resident of Richmond Heights, 13 years. I don't think I need that.
And I'm Tyrone Drummer, resident of Richmond Heights, 12 years, and I live on Pearson Drive. Okay. With that, Council President Roach, would you like to take?
Just you can see him.
Sure.
Want to sit down or what?
Yeah, come on, sit down. Make
Join
yourself
us,
at home.
yeah, join us.
I'd like to thank you for you guys' participation in this mission. And I do have a handout.
Is this the same as what's over
Yep.
there?
I know I've been invited here to make some comments, and so I put together a few things this afternoon, actually, to try to at least give us a start. Just wanted to indicate that I believe the charter has served the city well, and that as a chartered city, that we have municipal home rule. So. I know we had some previous discussions or there were some previous discussions in some of the previous meetings that seemed to indicate that there was some thought that Ohio Revised Code kind of took precedence over everything. So I wanted to try to bring out a couple of thoughts that I had here. Was the Ohio Constitution Article 18 is better known as the Home Rule Amendment, and the reasons. Some of the reasons that have been stated for this amendment are to free municipalities from the control of the General Assembly and the state officials, and with respect to the local affairs and the powers of the local government, to allow the adoption of the municipal charters to provide for the structure and organization of the municipal government. So for the above reasons, we should only use the revised code as a, and this is just my input, as related to charters, as an alternative guideline and not necessarily a mandate from the Ohio, state of Ohio as a requirement for charters. They leave everything to the home rule, my interpretation, city to create our own charter. Any questions at this point, or? I'm talking to a lot of attorneys here, so. And I'm not an attorney, so.
What was the article and section?
It's all in the
Article
notes.
18. It's on there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, no, no.
I'm just reading from the notes.
Okay.
I know there had some previous discussions, and so I would like to also kind of expound on those, I would use caution when you're extending the lame duck period between the election time and the newly elected officers, or when the newly elected officers take office. There are many advantages to having a newly elected official take office as soon after the election as possible. The disadvantages are that the officials who have been voted out of office are still making decisions and taking actions without receiving what I would term the latest vote of the electorate. So that's just, well, it's just as an alternative to, yes, go ahead.
No, not this, apologize.
No, I'm at the end of my paragraph.
In your next to the last paragraph there, you're proposing a way to elect the mayor.
Well, I didn't get there yet.
Oh, all right, I'll wait for you.
Okay, I appreciate that. I take any comments on the lame duck period.
Well, I think it's in conflict with your next thing.
Okay, well, it could be slightly. No comments or no, everybody's quiet, okay?
No, I think we want to wait there.
Okay, well, I'm going from one big segment to the other.
Just
here.
give me respect of carrying through the other.
Okay. Again, one of the proposed changes that has occurred more recently is which would be to possibly section 5.1 would be that's under term of office. And again, this would be just added to the existing section. And I've taken the vast majority of this from Mayfield Heights charter. So in event of no candidate for the mayor receives a majority vote of the total votes cast for mayor at the regular municipal election, a runoff election shall be held in the first Tuesday after the first Monday in December, next following the municipal election between the two mayoral candidates receiving the greatest number of votes in the municipal election. Candidate receiving the majority of the votes cast in said runoff election shall be elected mayor, as the provision shall be effective beginning with the next regular municipal mayoral election in 2017. If there's any, we'll stop after each section here. I'm not sure if there's any questions.
I'm not sure the question was.
Okay, yes, Dave, go
Sorry
ahead.
about that. But if there has to be a runoff in December, you're already breaching the part that you didn't like about
Well,
extending.
I did not say any dates on my first paragraph. If you note, I'm just saying as soon after as possible in the first thing. So I'm trying to reduce the lame duck period as much as possible.
Hard to do.
It was more of a comment than an hand.
Very good.
I got a question for you. So why wouldn't you want to extend that time to the first of the year, which would give the incoming mayor an opportunity to look at what's happening, what needs to be closed out, so when that person takes office, they know exactly where they stand?
I think the comments in the previous handout that you had, you're assuming that the person that's in office is going to do what they're supposed to do, and that's not necessarily always the case. It's in any lame duck debate or thing, there's pros and cons on having someone being elected and not being able to take the actions, and that's what I tried to state in the comments. You know, if you extend, you elect someone, but you say, well, geez, you don't want them to be whatever. take one position, be mayor for 7 weeks. And that's one of the reasons why I believe it was changed. It was, I believe, changed in the 80s from January to December 1st, because there were some incidences where that long delay was not desired. And so there's pros, I'm sure there's pros and cons on all this, and so this is up to the committee to weigh if they want to change it back. I guess, I mean, this is, yeah, I think you're asking for my input, so
Yes.
I'm just giving you my thoughts and inputs. There's pros and cons on these, and I just want to make sure that we just don't go down with one input.
We appreciate it. It's a good idea.
Now, I am trying to figure this out in my mind, because it was my understanding, okay, that's okay.
Oh, I can
Help me to
paraphrase.
understand, in an attempt, is what I understand you said to eliminate the lame duck period, but then the next proposal is we putting the city in a position where you may even have to have another mayoral race. So how do you see those two working? So now we're extending.
Well, there's still the lane
Maybe I
vector
can
is
cut
good.
this short. I've been law director since September of '95. We've never had more than 2 candidates for mayor until this year. We had 4. No one person got a majority of the total votes, as you know. And so I think this proposal is in that situation where no one person, if you have more than 2 running, gets a majority of the total votes cast for mayor, then it's proposed to have a runoff so that someone does get at least 50% plus 1 in order to be mayor. And so that takes time, of course, after the regular election day of the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November to decide who that is, have those votes certified by the end of November, and then have a runoff of the top 2 at that point in time, which is sort of a common provision around, at least what I've seen in Northeast Ohio. So I think that's the explanation. So in that one instance where you would have more than 2 people running and no one gets a majority of the total votes cast, then of course you'd have to delay the inauguration of the person until that vote was cast in December, is what the council president's proposal. So that's the explanation, I guess.
You don't think
In
a
that one
primary
instance.
would better solve that? As opposed to having a runoff?
I believe in a general sense in the county, a non-political primary is not desired, I guess. But that's, I mean, that's, everybody has an opinion on that too, I'm sure.
I think the problem with to have a nonpartisan primary, which would come before the general election, I was just thinking about this, if it's in October or if it's in July, and say you have 4 people, but if one person gets a majority, 51%, he doesn't have to rerun. Okay, so you could have a person elected mayor. In this case, when's the primary? May? So you could have a mayor elected in May and not take office until December or January, wherever we set that. So, you know, I think this may not be a bad idea to have a runoff in the December area, rather than having it, you know, I know that, I believe you were thinking about an early primary.
I believe this is what did happen this year or last year in Mayfield Heights.
They had the runoff.
Yeah. I think it was Mayfield.
Who was?
And so I basically cut and pasted this right out of their charter.
All right.
And added I actually added the first Tuesday after the first Monday, and not put it on an early these
You
issues,
really- you
potential
really
issues
want
with
the
election.
engineer, 'cause
No.
it's getting too close to it.
A question of mine would be, is there an additional cost to?
I'm sure there's a
Additional
cost.
cost.
Have an election, you're
And
gonna pay.
and there would be for a primary also, unless you had other issues on a May primary ballot. City of Cleveland's primaries are in October,
Right.
first week of October, and then they only have 4 weeks to run after that.
But if you're talking about a runoff, and an incumbent, is not one who part of the runoff, then who runs the city? Council?
The incumbent.
No,
No, the incumbent doesn't get replaced until another person gets elected.
I just wanted
And the same, it would be the same in the lame duck thing, that you wouldn't be extending the lame duck period because you wouldn't have identified the new officer until after the second.
Mr. Chairman, I might, just as a footnote, the City of Cleveland method that Mr. Hunt was talking about fits the model that the council president is describing, but they were solving the problem of the lame duck issue by actually having that election in October with all the candidates running, and then they have the runoff in November on the regular election date. So you could theoretically implement the council president's methodology and still not have there be a lame duck issue if you were to emulate the method that they're using in the city of Cleveland, if you were to so choose.
Thank you.
I think one other point there is if we use the October date for a primary, and say you've got over 51% on the election, then you've got the entire month of October, November, and December. So what has to be weighed is whether you want this amount of time on the back end, or whether you want to reduce it down by having, it's actually like having a primary in November. You're having a primary in the general election, and then you're having your own general election in December if there's need for a runoff. So, the question is how many days do we want in there, how much time to make it to the end result?
Council President, can I ask you to expound a little bit more as far as what you see over and above what you stated here as the advantages of having the elected officials take office in December in comparison to what the other disadvantages are? Because there's only one listed here, as far as lame duck,
Right.
What are the other
I think you can look up lame duck under Google or something and get a whole list that you desire, but it is just
The
that.
President of the United States gets elected in the first Tuesday in November and doesn't take office until January.
And there are probably some problems there.
There's problems everywhere.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering in your mind, being.
Well, I think basically whatever decisions are made, I think if myself as an electorate, you want the person that has been elected to start making those decisions. And there's a number of decisions at the end of the year, whether there's financial decisions, legislation. If you have, I'd be more confident in having the person that I have elected making those decisions than someone that has been no longer got the faith of the residents.
If I could ask a follow-up then, if I can get this out the way I want it to be.
No, all these are good questions, and they're all things that all of us have to go through and try to decipher here. So I appreciate them. I appreciate your inputs.
Actually having an old-timers moment right now.
No problem.
So forgive me. And I hope my head is not ruining your videography.
It's not my videography. And in fact, I'm not sure whose it is at the moment. I don't know who's paying.
Let me try and get it out this way. when the mayor takes office in December and assumes everything that has been done to that point from the prior administration, what if any, without becoming too general, what if any powers does the mayor have at that particular point to say, wait a minute, I don't agree with this contract, or I don't agree with this, this financial plan that's already been voted on and approved by prior mayor and council at that particular point?
Well, in the terms of contracts, I guess it depends on when those were signed and not signed. Normally what council does is authorizes the signature of a contract, and depends on the timing of the meeting. If the meeting is in November, we give authorization for the mayor to sign, and I've seen contracts signed within a few hours of having the authorization being commenced. So that contract would be done. But if there was a contract that needed to be done in December, then the new mayor would be the person who would be authorized to sign. It would be the people that would be on council to give that authorization to sign would be in December, would be the new people who were then just duly elected. So, I mean, the question, I guess, in my mind is do you want someone who has been removed from office, or I don't want to use the right term here, not recently elected. Do you want the person recently elected to be doing those decisions, or do you want someone that's not received the votes of the people doing those decisions all the way through? And I know there were some other things about union negotiations and things like that. Normally those don't occur in December. Most of those on election year. I mean, there's a whole variations of time on all these things. I guess the other proposal I would have had is, and again, I think the charter has served us well. I just tried to pull out a couple items that I see that possibly could be improved. Was under the Director of Finance. Right now, we have the Director of Finance shall be appointed by the mayor with the approval of the majority of members of council. And I'm suggesting a similar item that's under the Service Director, and may be removed from office by the mayor with the concurrence of 5 members of council. Now, we just recently went through this. We're right in the middle of winding up the year, doing budgetary activities for the next year, and we lose all our financial guidance and people that were in the know and halfway through the process. And so what I'm proposing here is that we just add with the concurrence of 5 members of council to try to potentially avoid just removing the finance people without a consensus.
Are there any questions for Council President?
If you can hire, shouldn't you be able to fire? Without the approval of the council?
Well, you're hiring with approval of council to your point, Stan. And so I'm just saying fire with the removal with the approval of council.
Why would she need, or any mayor need, to have approval? You know, to hire or fire? They're the head of the city, and they're supposed to be operating the city. In order to properly operate the city, they hire and they fire.
I guess I have a viewpoint that the mayor and council help operate the city. that the mayor is the executive head and all the department heads report to her, but the finances and the city's legislation and all that comes through council.
Well, I agree, most of the stuff comes through council, but I don't know that firing and hiring should have anything to do with council.
Okay, well,
I'm
we
trying-
have a difference of opinion.
I'm trying to find out why would you want that in the charter? Now, this is not just one place, this is in the charter already, in about 3 or 4 different places.
As far as removal, or,
Yeah.
and I
Well,
don't.
even the hiring,
The hiring is
It's
in
already in
most,
here.
most
that's what I'm
appointments.
saying.
It's most, I haven't added the hiring, I put in the bold print is what was added. Maybe it wasn't clear.
Right.
It was adding the remove, may remove.
All right.
Okay. What it does is that I believe that councils with typically seven members, have a good idea of what's going on, and if somebody needs to be removed, you can get a concurrence of the council very easily. If it's a political activity, then at least you're tempered with the members of council.
Wouldn't that undermine
Seven
the
other
mayor?
people.
Sure does.
Wouldn't that undermine the mayor and his or her authority to do what's best for the city? Waiting for.
I don't believe so. I believe the council is always trying to do the best for the city.
We're not talking about the council, I'm talking about the mayor.
Well, you're talking, I'm not sure what you're saying. Are you saying
Okay.
that the council's undermining the mayor when they
I
have
would say that
the
if
concurrence?
if she decides she want to remove an individual for whatever reason it is, it might be a detriment to the city to keep that person there, especially if later on council decides that we're going to keep her. So it can destroy her as far as her being aggressive, as far as her being a person who can do the job without worrying about what's happening. Because if I got somebody working for me and I'm not sure they're not on my team, I can't be effective.
I need to ask a question. I don't mean to interrupt you. Who are the department heads? What departments? When this says department heads, what departments are we talking about?
Department heads are finance, law, public service, public safety, and the
Engineering,
engineering.
building,
Okay, this is my question.
Service and engineering, I believe, are under the same.
This is my question.
You might treat police and fires. Yeah, police and fire part of safety, their divisions, and they have chiefs who are civil service. which I
right.
think they're-
Okay, so under the executive powers of the mayor, that person is the executive head and shall supervise the administration of the municipality's affairs and shall appoint all department heads.
Mhm.
And shall be responsible to the electors for the operation of all departments and or divisions.
Right.
So if the mayor is responsible for all these different departments, the mayor should be able to hire whoever they see fit for the department heads. That's my opinion. Without approval of council, because the mayor is the one that's responsible for these departments, and the mayor has to answer to the voters on how those departments are run. And so the mayor should be able to, since the mayor has to work with these departments, should be able to choose who heads them.
Well, it brings up a lot of conversation. terms of just arbitrarily coming in and terminating somebody is one thing, but termination for cause, theft or something like that, I mean, we've got enough attorneys in here to say the mayor needs that authority to get that person out of the building. Somehow another council should be made aware or something of that nature, but there's a lot of different.
If you want to
You
put that
bring-
wording, if you
you
want to
got
put that
enough
wording
stuff-
in there,
You
then
got
that's
enough
fine.
stuff in here for us to think about is what I'm sharing with you, yeah.
You've asked me to come in and make some
Yeah,
comments to help you go through some things, and this is all I'm doing. This is not a demand, it's not a thing, it's just an observation. It's a point that we've had recent challenges with, and so this is not by all means the end all on the wording either. I mean, to your point, you can put remove, I mean, person normally gets removed for cause real easily, and you'll get concurrence of council immediately. It's the in-between time things, and the criticalness of this. We've been put at a very bad position as far as trying to get our budget together with a finance person that has no experience with the city or no experience with the departments, and so we've been working weekends and nights and Sundays and everything to get our things done by the end of March. And we're meeting, we're doing all kinds of hours, trying to overtake what happened when our finance department left. So it's an important, that was an important move, and if there is some little softening of just coming in and getting rid of someone that's in the know of what's happening, I'd be for that. But this is up, to you to make recommendations, and the voters will make the decision. I would say that the charter does that gives the right for or the powers to the mayor to appoint, but in most cases on the department heads, gives them to either confirm or deny for the council to confirm and deny. And personally, I feel that works well. The mayor can pick and choose whoever she wants to appoint, but it's confirmed by council. There's a balance there, and I think the way it was written is fine. The mayor was chairman, I just remind you, the mayor was chairman of the Charter Review Committee 5 years ago, when the last time the Charter Review Committee met. And this has withstood from the beginning of time, I think from 59 or whatever, 60, when the charter was put together. So it was intended, I believe, from the charter, Dave can probably expound on that a little bit more too, that this is a strong council, mayor government. And so it is what it is, I think.
Council President Roach, we appreciate your comments and your discussions here, and we will actively, look at this individual list that you gave us, and we really appreciate you coming and spending some time with us and explaining some of the proposed changes that you would like.
Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone, and I'll be attending some of the next meetings, but I'll always be available for any questions that you so desire.
Thank you.
Mr. Roach, I have something here on the strong mayor form of government, and it states that in the strong mayor form, the elected mayor is given almost total administrative authority and a clear wide range of political independence with the power to appoint and dismiss department heads without council approval and little or no public input. So
in reading this charter, I see that some portions of it are a strong mayor council, other portions of it are a weak mayor form of government. So it's a little bit of both.
Okay, I guess I termed, maybe I misspoke as far as it is a strong council. It's a mayor council government, but it's with a strong council. And again, the mayor's one person and the council's 7. And if you feel that a council of 7 has some wisdom within the group, which I'd hope you'd agree, sometimes a group of decisions are better than one decision.
Thank you.
So,
We appreciate you attending and sharing this information with us.
thank you. My pleasure. Thank you.
Now we would ask that Chief Rowan, would you come and share information?
Well, nearly as long as I have a very small.
That's good.
Should be one thing for everything. In my review of the section that pertains to the Division of Police, I didn't really see anything there that I felt at least hasn't worked from the time that I've been here, which has been since May of 1993. The only thing that possibly we might want to look at, and I'll explain my rationale for it, was Section 4 under the Department of Public Safety, subsection C, the second paragraph down. And in the handout that I gave you, which in parentheses there is the language that I've inserted. It is not currently in the charter language. And essentially what that, what it was added was that that somebody would be eligible for the position of Chief of Police, that all applications within the Division of Police shall hold a position of Police Sergeant or higher, and shall have served in that capacity beyond any probationary period applicable to the position. So essentially what I did is I put more separation between in-house candidates and candidates who would be coming in from the inside. The reason I did that is because currently the way the department is set up, we only have one lieutenant. So if you were going to give a test, that person would be the only person that was currently in the department that would be eligible to compete for the position. Now there used to be 3 lieutenants years ago. One of them was a detective lieutenant. That detective lieutenant, when he retired, they didn't make a detective lieutenant, they had a detective sergeant. There used to be an administrative lieutenant and a patrol lieutenant. When I got here in '93, I was trying to get more people out on the road, and I thought the organization was too top-heavy, so I eliminated a lieutenant's position. So that there was myself and one lieutenant who serves as deputy chief when I'm not there, and oversees the operation of the uniform division and the patrol division. The fire department has similar language, and they say lieutenant, but see, they have 3 lieutenants because their shift commanders are lieutenants. So they're equivalent to what our sergeants are, because our sergeants are our shift commanders. So even from a pay standpoint, a fire lieutenant makes what a police sergeant makes, because there's no other tiers there between the difference. So I just feel from, if you have individuals that have within a department, and they're sergeants, they've been there a long time, if they've been developed, which is a responsibility, I think, of the organization, is to professionally develop your supervisors, that they could certainly be in a position to be chief of police. And again, they would have to compete just like the others. They still would have to take a test, they would still have to go through interview processes, psychological, the whole list of things that is set out in the Civil Service Commission rules. And I didn't change the other from outside. I still left that as a lieutenant or higher, and again, served in that position in the capacity beyond a probationary period. And I did insert also where it said municipality political subdivision. There are places like, there are a lot of places in Ohio where there's townships that are not municipalities, and they're far bigger than some of the little municipalities that are around. So I think that would probably cover that better, encompass that. But that would be my only,
Chief Brewer, out of curiosity, your background when you came in 1993 was what? Can you share that with us?
yeah, I was, at the time, I was chief of police in Warrensville Heights. I'd been chief there for 5 years.
I have a question. Just getting some understanding, what would be the difference, or why did you feel, I understand if people have been employed for the city that they should have the opportunity, but why not then keep the language the same for all applicants? Why differentiate between in-house can be a sergeant, but if you're coming from the outside, you must be a lieutenant? I can see that.
Because I think in-house, with your sergeants, they have some history. They have some organizational history about the city, about the department, that a candidate coming in from the inside does not have, and that can be a huge advantage to that person if he's qualified in every other way. He knows why things are the way they are and how they got the way they are, as opposed to somebody coming in. They may have experience someplace else, but they may not have that organizational knowledge that is kind of one step up for somebody if they had the other qualifications.
I think I probably asked the question wrong. Would you have a problem if the language remained the same for in-house or someone being hired from the outside?
You mean making it both sergeants?
Yes.
Um,
If what you're saying, so you can promote from within, you want that language, I really can't see a job at this level having two different criteria, one for out and then one for in.
and there's a lot more difference in what sergeants do in different police organizations than what lieutenants do. And a lot of it depends on the size of the organization. Some lieutenants are on the road just like patrolmen, some sergeants are on the road just like patrolmen. There's other departments where they're large enough that that's not the case. So I think when you go down to sergeant, I think now there's way too many differences that would come into play. I'm looking at it mainly like if you're trying to provide an opportunity, an incentive for people that are here, that have dedicated themselves to the community and to the job, and if you're a person that wants to, I know when I got hired as a patrolman, my goal was to be chief. I mean, it's like if you start someplace, your goal should be to be the boss someday. And for somebody that strives, and then you're going to say, but you're never going to have an opportunity to be at the top because there's only one lieutenant that could be eligible, regardless. I just think it's difficult. I mean, it's like the argument that could be made, should you make there are some cities, a lot of cities actually, that you have to promote from within. You can't go on the outside. And, you can make the similar argument for that you have people that have been in this organization now, even if we had 3 lieutenants, and now you're going to bring in somebody else to be in charge. Well, from my experience, I can say I'm glad it was like that here. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had the pleasure of coming here. But again, I think that's good because it gives a mayor, in this particular case, the opportunity to say, you know, I want the best person, or I'm looking at, I know that when I came in here, the department was very stagnant, it needed change, and I think the mayor and council felt, and they had the opportunity to do something different, to say, I think things need to be a little bit different, and sometimes being within an organization for a long time, it is very hard to change that culture. I can tell you that when I did come in from the outside, it wasn't easy for me, because that's exactly the way you're viewed. You're viewed as the odd man out. What are you doing here? And if you want to change something, everybody wants to know, well, you know, just because you were here, what makes you say that's better? So it's a difficult position to be in, but organizational change sometimes is necessary, and sometimes it's hard for people within that organization, if the culture's been a certain way for a long time, to change.
John?
Yeah, maybe to help the committee, the chief, do you anticipate that you're going to have more lieutenants anytime in the future, or that the department will have more lieutenants?
I wouldn't, well, I mean, if I was chief, I would say no, because I think based on the size of the community, unless something would change significantly in the community that would allow the department to grow, I don't think you need those additional positions. I think you want more people on the road, more visibility, more people actually doing that sort of thing. You could certainly have, it would be certainly nice to have another administrative person to do some things, but that person doesn't necessarily have to be a person, a lieutenant. In other words, if the organization was such and I wanted one of my sergeants maybe to be more of an administrative sergeant, instead of rotating with the shifts, take care of all the vehicle repairs, all the equipment, impounding and all of that stuff, I could certainly assign him those duties. He wouldn't necessarily have to be a lieutenant to be able to function in that capacity. So unless the organization got bigger and you needed to separate responsibilities more, I really can't see that happening. I mean, we've gone from 22 sworn officers to 17, and unless something were to change, I don't see it getting back up to 22. And even at 22, I'm not sure we really need it.
I hear the horseshoes moving out here.
Well, we could do that.
Chief, a question. How many sergeants are assigned to your department?
We have 5.
So
We have, yeah, well, one of my rationale for not having a lieutenant and having another sergeant is we had, at the time, we had 3 shifts, uniform shifts, and a sergeant in charge of the tech bureau, so that was the 4 sergeants. What was happening is when a sergeant was off, then a patrolman ran the shift. They also get extra money when they do that. And to me, I looked at it like the patrolman that may be running that shift I may not be comfortable with him being in that position and making those decisions. So I thought a sergeant that receives the additional training as a supervisor, as often as possible, I would rather have that person in charge. So instead of having a lieutenant that worked, 2 lieutenants that work 9 to 5, I made that lieutenant, or that sergeant, additional sergeant, did away with the lieutenant, and that person now rotated, so that when the sergeant was off, he filled in on some of those shifts instead of a patrolman. And so there were more times when I had a sergeant on duty and fewer times that I was having to pay a patrolman extra. Because actually the way that it was set up as a patrolman, as an acting shift officer, made more money than what the sergeant would have made if he was which didn't seem to make much sense to me either.
Okay. Should no more question for the chief?
Chief Newman did mention the fact that he thought it was important to have full-time put in there, because there are a lot of part-time officers that may actually could serve, I guess, as a lieutenant in a small village or township, and so, Chief, what's your thought on?
It's
Well,
really
they
the same
couldn't-
rationale that we had with the fire department.
Right.
Yeah, well, they couldn't I mean, the way our department is, because in order to be a lieutenant, you'd have to be full-time, because you'd have to be a civil servant. And our part-time employees are not, they're at-will employees.
Your last name again?
Rowe, R-O-W-E.
Do you have part-timers that are not full-time police officers somewhere else?
We have, no, not right now. We have two part-time, we had one part-time that just resigned, who was a full-time in Highland Heights. We currently have a part-time, another part-timer that's full-time in Highland Heights, and I believe he'll probably be resigning shortly. They don't have enough time with their full-time commitment to really help us out. We try to do that because sometimes hiring part-time, which you get a lot, are kids right out of the academy that have finished academy, that are looking for a job. It takes a lot of time to train them, and they're looking for a full-time position. So it can be a rotating door sometime of you hiring, training, they get an opportunity to go someplace full-time. You've improved their chances of doing that because you've given them some experience, and then they're gone, and now you're back to square one. So we tried, well, let's see if we can get experienced people that are already police officers. They already really know the job. What they need to do is just learn our city and our in-house procedures. But that didn't work because they just didn't have enough time. But we needed people to fill in, cover for vacations, for injuries, and they couldn't do that. They would work when it was good for them and not good for us, which, you know, I wasn't out trying to give somebody additional income. I was out trying to help us out from a staffing level. So right now we do have two. I think that the one gentleman from Highland Heights will probably be resigning because he hasn't worked since November. We still have one gal that is working with us, and she was full-time with us in 2009, but she was one of the 5 sworn officers that was laid off. So she currently works in Rocky River full-time.
She lives this way?
No, she lives out that way.
Oh, okay.
But she's at least has been working on a regular basis. She works 3 or 4 times a month at least that helps us out. And she always works afternoon shifts, which is our busiest shift and where we need that additional person.
Do you have auxiliary?
Yes, but they're volunteers, so they don't have any formalized police training. They don't have any arrest powers. They're more there for visibility. They help with traffic control, that sort of things. They do work some part-time jobs where, like the show and that, where people are looking for some visibility, but they don't have any real training. We give them some training, but I mean, there's no certification from the state or anything else for them to be law enforcement officers. And they're required to put in 10 hours a month volunteer time.
Great. Thank you.
All right.
Please,
Well, I want to thank you for this opportunity. I mean, I've been here for a while, we've done this before, and nobody has really asked for our input, so it was,
I'm learning a lot.
Absolutely.
I had one question, Chief, about the jail. How do your people interface with everything else over there? The jail, prisoners from Cleveland, and...
well, we have,
I just need enlightenment.
yeah, we have a 15, it's considered a 12-day facility, which by the state of Ohio means that we can hold people for 12 days, but we can't hold them for longer than that. We pretty much arrest and hold our own prisoners until they get arraigned or until they post bond. Felony prisoners, we only hold long enough until we can get them downtown. That's changed a little bit, but normally the judge can set a bond, but they're entitled to a preliminary hearing. If they want a preliminary hearing, then sometimes we have to hold them a little bit longer before they get that. The municipal court will address the preliminary hearing, and then the case will go downtown, and then we can get rid of that person. But we had 334 prisoners in our jail this past year, 2013, which is actually a little bit more than the year before, but not as many as we've had in the past. And the average time that a prisoner serves was about 2.5, almost 3 days.
And your team is responsible for controlling and managing that whole piece?
Yes. And that is a challenge sometimes, because,
I bet.
especially with our staffing, because we're required by the state to do hourly checks on them, and it's difficult sometimes when we're down to 2 guys on the road. If they get tied up someplace and they can't get back, we're kind of opening ourselves up to liability. That's why in 2009, not only did we lose the 5 sworn officers, but we lost our 3 correction officers, and they helped out quite a bit in that capacity, because our guys would make an arrest, they'd come back pretty much as if there was a jail at work, and they dropped the prisoner off. The jailer booked them, and guys would boom back on the road again.
Did the state pay for those days that those people were in jail? Or does the city pay for that?
No, once they get bound over, we could bill the county for them, but typically they get out of here pretty quick after that. And I know that, actually right now, Euclid's jail, I know the county's working on something with that to expand our capability to take those prisoners. You get them off our hands. But it'd be difficult for us, I think most, especially small police departments, would tell you that they would prefer not to have a jail. But in our situation, and though the mall isn't as busy as it used to be a pretty steady stream of shoplifters in the mall's heyday back here. And the problem is that if we don't hold them long enough in order to give them an opportunity to post bond and process them, that means we have to take those prisoners in someplace else. Well, if I've only got 2 guys on the road, I really don't want those 2 guys transporting a prisoner out to Bedford Heights, which on a good day is 20 minutes there and 20 minutes back. Now, in a Cleveland winter, that could be days running around 271. But, now you have those 2 people are gone, period. You have nobody in the city. So the idea of having to transport people, as many people as come through here, that'd be very cumbersome. An example would be, we arrested 2 guys that were involved in an arson of a vehicle in Richmond Park. The night shift brought them back and held them. Say if we were a 12-hour facility instead, which meant you could hold somebody for 12 hours, which sometimes is enough time for them to post bond and boom, they're gone, you don't have to worry about it. But in a situation like this, that same morning we had already set up an arrest warrant to go arrest a bank robber that we had identified from a couple of years ago. Well, when those guys got back, there were no detectives here to interview these guys and finish processing them. And if we would have had to get them out of here in 12 hours, we would have had to take them someplace. Now when our detectives come back, in order for them to talk to them, they're going to have to drive someplace else. So it's just, as much as you'd like not to have it, it would be very difficult to operate without it. To me, it's like you're wasting resources transporting people around the county. And as much as the county would like to do sometimes, they've never really been very good at transporting their own prisoners. But they have to go downtown, normally we have to take them there as opposed to them coming out and getting them. And for the same reasons, everybody's got, your resource issues and so forth.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Again,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
It's great seeing you again. Take care. Thanks.
At this moment, do we have anyone from the audience that would like to have a conversation or would like some input, discussion? Welcome your comments. Okay, thank you.
I think we make a motion to adjourn.
But now we're making.
Well, when you review the announcement.
Oh. Do that, didn't you?
Next meeting will be Tuesday at 6 p.m., right here in the caucus room. Before we go, we need 2 more individuals to interview. And on my list, I have Todd, you gonna come next week? Sure. And can we get the city engineer? Can you invite the city engineer?
You can do that or double up with Dave.
You have Dave and Todd.
Well, I'm not sure Dave has.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Yes,
be
he's
presenting. He's the law director who would make that presentation. I would really serve as counsel to the body, so your engineering, head of
Okay.
engineering probably should be at the next meeting.
So we'll give an invitation out to Lee Courtney, the city engineer.
He's gonna have to get it right away. Okay, this time I'm making motion with you. Somebody got a second.
Everybody got a second? The move and second that this meeting be adjourned. All in favor? Any opposed?